Hello and welcome to etbfsi.com by the Economic Times. Today I'm in conversation with Winnie Chen. She's an APAC Head for Global Payments and Solutions at Bank of America. Really glad to have you on this conversation.
Thank you so much, Amal. Hi, everybody.
So to begin with, I have a couple of questions. Maybe I will go with some basic brain side questions and perhaps then get into some specific questions. To begin with, I have seen a greater rally, specifically in the payment space all over the world, but specifically in APAC. I would like you to tell me what are the major trends that you are seeing specifically in the payment space when you look at the APAC region.
Like as one of the largest financial, institution in the world, we have diverse clientele, in the region. We service, multinational corporation, large Asian corporates, and also commercial bank clients, plus financial institution clients as well. We have seen, the payment landscape is actually faster evolving compared to the rest of the regions at the global level. The clients are looking for faster payment delivery and easier to actually effect payments or receiving payments, and even in the very secure manner that it's actually on top of mind for all the corporate treasuries. So, the trend has always been, looking into how to connect from one jurisdiction to another, adopting the real-time payment rails in the regions. So there's really a lot going on at the industry level and also at the country levels.
Okay, sure. Let me get into specific. There was a saying that if you want to transport money to some other country, the easiest way is to travel, make a person fly. And now digital payments have been changing that route. What kind of difference you think that the digital or all the technology is making in the payment space? Are banks making faster payments? Are the clients' businesses happy with the faster payment, instant payments mode? What are the trends that you are seeing on that front?
Yes. Of course, payment are now, because of the consumer driving a lot of the payment evolvement. We are all very familiar with the 24/7, the real-time payment delivery, especially kind of happening at the country level. And then, of course, corporate will also expect to have the same experiences, enjoying real-time payment and also enjoying, 24/7 solutions. And that has, again, driving a lot of innovation in the payment space, especially in this part of the world. And then, of course, with that, there will be a lot of considerations around fraud and also cyber, securities because of all the faster delivery in today's environment.
Mm. Okay, I copy you. There is a trend specifically with the fintechs. I mean, fintechs are the one who's redefining the whole payment space, right? So I would like to pick up your thoughts on how the payments, specifically the cross-border payments, are being redefined by the fintechs and the banks. What kind of collaborations and the partnerships happening over there?
I see fintech and banks are really a ecosystem. We all have to coexist today, right? There are different roles that the banks are playing and then the fintechs are playing, right? We actually, of course, fintech from banks' perspective, fintech can be a competition, can be your competitors, but at the same time, they are the enablers of banking solutions as well. And then, many of the banks actually, acquire fintechs solutioning to embed in the overall end-to-end, payment solution offering to the clients. And at the same time, fintechs are clients of banks as well. So I see a very important dynamic and a very interesting dynamic for fintech and banks coexist today. And it's going to be, continue to be the same way in my view.
Okay. I will also try to understand more on the intermediaries part, payment, transaction, treasury. These are very routine and traditional businesses for banks, which is also helping them bringing their margin. But now the payments and now the fintechs and a lot of intermediaries are coming into the picture. Do you think that the banks have to share a decent revenue or maybe a profit pool with the intermediaries? Because on one side, the client who want faster instant payment, which fintechs are, what you can say, helping them do it. But again, the banks will have to empty their pocket, right? Spend their share with them. So how's that collaborations in terms of the working and whether the banks are kind of, how are the banks managing their margins with this?
Yeah. Definitely, with the fintech, the money service bureau is being in the space for quite some time, actually getting into the banking space as well. And then, of course, banks a lot of time coming together to actually come up with solution to come back with all the disruption that created by all the likes of different fintech payment platform in the payment space. They are many successful fintech guys actually have taken a lot of shares from especially in the remittances area, but they are ones also not necessarily are able to survive. I think the critical the critical component is around the anti-money laundering, the fraud detection, and also the cybersecurities. Fintech, if they want to continue to be robust in this space, to continue to grow, they will need to be able to, make sure they have the solution at the same time, be able to comply with all the regulations, in each and every jurisdiction. Because we are all aware that all the regulators are also looking into ensuring the fintech also in the same, it's going to be governed in a similar manner of they're being governed by the banks.
Correct. But how's the whole maybe the regulatory environment is now fintechs? I will also take your view specifically on India in some time, but right now, since you touched the point of anti-money laundering or money laundering activity, fraudsters, the samsters, the banks are highly regulated, unlike fintechs, right? But ultimately, when you look at the instant payments or speed up, accelerate the payments, and you have to look at innovations. So how actually the banks and the fintechs try to collaborate here in terms of regulations? How do they actually embrace regulations? Because fintechs comes from the world of innovation, where the banks will have to tick all the boxes which the regulators have defined for them.
My understanding is that a lot of regulators started to also looking into different policies in order to make sure all the players, being banks or fintech, need to be governed in the same manner, because this is a financial ecosystem. We all have that responsibility and accountability to ensure we have a very safe financial market in order to move money from one location to another. And oftentimes, in order to be able to comply with all the regulations, you need a lot of investment funding. You need a lot of capital in order to achieve that. Sometimes fintech will not be able to achieve in the same way of what banks are able to achieve, because of in terms of all the financial sound and financial strength that bank has is very different from the scale of the fintechs. So that's that in the long game that we can actually see the differentiation started to come up.
The other challenge apart from the AML or specifically the scam frauds that I see now is the currency fluctuation or the forex issue, and specifically in the current environment where dollar has strengthened against major APAC currencies, right? How does banks deal with such things? I know hedging is one alternative which everyone tries to use, but considering the rally that we have seen in dollar, how the businesses, actually try to deal with this, how the banks actually look at, the foreign transactions while, transporting or making cross-border transactions.
Yeah, and then 2025 is going to be full of volatility, right? Because we all are aware that there's like the interest rate environment in the US, that a lot of research has actually come up with different views, right? From 2 rate cuts to potentially 0 rate cuts. And then they are potentially many of the Asian currency continue to, will continue to actually, reduce the rates. And then FX is definitely a exposure that all the corporates, all the financial institutions are facing today. And, we, as one of the largest banks globally, we serve different segment of clients. We have a very robust research team behind us, providing all different kind of research reports, sharing with our client, providing them with all the different advices, and then coupled with our robust global markets capability to help our client to actually kind of weather, what's going to happen in the volatility in the FX space. And of course, many of the clients can definitely leverage our FX payment solution whenever they see certain requirement on a more ad hoc basis, instead of just a predictive hedge mechanism. So we as a bank are here behind our client, provide different set of solution in order to help them to get through the highly volatile year of 2025.
Winnie, I copy you. I mean, nobody will disagree with the fact that 2025 will be a volatile, or if I use a very frank word, chaotic, time for the cross-border payments or maybe transactions. Rates are going to be very volatile again. But if I ask you again specifically here, what are the strategies that you are using? I mean, how are you using your intelligence and maybe trying to make the payment fast, as well as ensuring that your clients, specifically the business, the industries, will not lose a lot of money in the transportation?
We serve clients in various different industry. We have industry specialized knowledge around major like industry like healthcare, TMT, and also financial institutions. We come up with different solutions, helping our client to forecast their liquidity, right? And then we have all these kind of tools on our online banking cash flow so that the corporate treasury and then the CFO will have a better forecast in terms of what they expect in terms of the liquidity. So that's how we actually help the client, kind of getting through a very volatile kind of environment. And this is really the cash management, the treasury management that we continue and committed to provide to our clients at the global level.
But how's the demand specifically from the clients or the business? Are they going slow with the transactions and they just want to wait and watch the situations, or they are just looking for some different alternatives to deal with it? How's that scenario?
There are so many different payment rails, right? Continue to kind of emerging in the payment space, and then especially in this part of the world in APAC, many countries has already started the real time payment system, and then many countries are started to connect from country to another in order to send payment on the cross border and then on a real time basis. And then as a corporate client, right, as a finance manager, as a treasurer, I will be worried whether I am actually adapting to the right payment method in order to deliver my payment in the faster and then effective manner. And then we as a bank providing cash management solution. And then we always sit down with the client, understand their particular payment flow and within the industry to give them the best advices. Is it really, they need to immediately change their ERP in order to actually use all the different payment rail, or they can actually see which one, and then from their client base, whether it be the business to business payment or business to consumer payments, what will be the most optimal payment rail for them to actually, adapt to. And then there's no one size fits all, and every company in the different industry should actually look at their practicality of which payment rail will actually fit into their requirement.
Certainly. Now, let me slightly move your focus to the most trending topics in the payment, apart from a typical traditional one, and that is digital currency or the cryptocurrency or even the stable coins and different coins, starting with even Bitcoin and Ethereum. How do you see a rally over there? Because it's a genuine question in terms of whether they're regulated or not. A lot of countries are looking at it positively, but again, they're not regulated. Countries like India have raised their hands and said we are not supporting to them as of now. Uh, but still, there is a pickup in that particular domain, and specifically after Trump coming into the power, the coins, the bitcoins, and other the cryptocurrencies have showcased rise in their valuations and the prices. Do you see a hope there? How do you evaluate the whole cryptocurrency and the digital currencies?
In fact, Asia is leading the cryptocurrency adoption, right? If we just go by a lot of statistics, the top markets actually we see a lot of crypto volumes actually in Asia. That's namely India, Korea, Indonesia, and Singapore, and so on and so forth. However, has that actually get into the corporate space? I feel it's more at the personal, like in consumer level, whether using crypto as a way of investment or a way of purchasing something, but it still have not widely adopted at the corporate wholesale environment. And then because, of course, with the Trump administration, there probably will be a lot of interesting, development from that perspective. Everybody is all wait and see. But I do not see a very near foreseeable future that is going to become a mainstream of the payment method in the corporate space.
Okay, so if I correct it rightly, and if you could maybe give me a small brief there just for an explanation, is you do not see a future specifically for cryptocurrencies right now? Is that what you're saying?
At the corporate space, I don't see that it's going to be an adoption from corporate paying to another corporate just yet in APAC.
So it's a game for only the retailers who can just play and try their luck.
It seems to be.
Okay. Another area, specifically that the world is quite focusing on now from the APAC region is the global south. I have seen a lot of companies from even India, Singapore, trying to focus, on the other countries like Indonesia, Malaysia. When we look at the payment space specifically, how the whole global south is picking up, what kinds of opportunities do you see there for the fintech companies?
I do see India has a lot of natural advantage, right? Because starting from the innovative mindset and the talent pool in India, and also the government push, and in terms of a lot of initiative and also a lot of capital that's actually happening and going into India to actually, to actually making sure that the fintech is actually something is going to be the key driver for India's economy. And then we look at the Global FinTech Festival, India continue to drive the biggest like kind of population into, India for that, the biggest event in the world. And then I do see that India continue to be the leading position in developing different types of the fintech companies.
But do you see the better opportunity specifically in terms of
yes.
the business? Because in those okay.
Especially, the development, the involvement of the GCC that, India is driving. And then also with the gift city that, the government is trying to push to make sure a lot of, business can actually operate in the more optimal manner, in India. And then with all the combine of that, and then with the new regulation came out in middle of January to internationalize Rupia, right? And that's all the combined effort moving towards internationalize India as an economy. And then fintech is really, something that is going to be it's going to benefit from the overall push from the government initiative.
Okay. Noted your point. It sounds really good, but how long do you think specifically to resolve the issues actually of this international payments or the cross-border payments? For example, the transaction between the Singapore and India is still not happening at a regular space, which they announced more than a year ago. right? The transaction between the India and Singapore about the cross-border payments. I think the Singapore and Thailand is far more seamless than still, between India and Singapore. Any learnings there, Winnie?
Yeah, I don't think this is an isolation, situation between Singapore and India, right? It's when the transaction that's going to be transmitting from one country to another, we are talking about two sets of standards, two sets of regulations. And then we need to understand all the players in the payment chain has to be adopting in the same standards and also to in comply with both sides of the regulations. That certainly adds a lot of challenges when it comes to cross-border real-time payments, right? Yes, the prompt pay now that's between Thailand and Singapore was the first one in Southeast Asia, having the connectivity. Yes, the volume has taken off. However, the adoption rate, if we ask everybody, do we see that expectation that is what everybody want to see, when the whole thing is being planned out, right? And then I see the ISO 20022 is going to help in terms of standardize the messaging type in the payment space. Again, every country has its own migration timeline, right? And then so there's so many things that, the two markets have to sort out in order to be able to ensure the cross-border real-time payment can actually link seamlessly and then become part of our life. So it's going to be an evolution. I want to say that.
Sure. Maybe last, I think we are coming to an end with one or two last questions. Winnie, I think one specifically we discussed a couple of thoughts. I mean, you shared a couple of thoughts specifically on the cross-border payments. But now, if you look at the future, because that's where the world is heading, there are fastest in payments, then instant payments, QR scan code, and so many different methods that people are using. Maybe if I, give you a thought in terms of how do you see the payment world maybe in next 3 to 5 years, specifically in the cross-border area in the APAC region, what would be your view? How do you see it?
I see that the next 2 to 3 years, the regulators, the banks, the payment systems will focus a lot on, to actually enable the cross-border real-time payment linkage, right? And then, like I mentioned, the most important thing is how do we actually have that standardization adoption, right? That needs to happen in order for country to connect seamlessly, right? And then how do we then ensuring on the bilateral basis, different regulations when, and also different, kind of the government reporting that needs to be able to streamline in order to ensure the payment happens from one country to another. And then there's a lot of like kind of seamless, processing can actually happen. So it's going to be a lot of effort to put on the ISO standardization, and all the players have to adopt that. And then, of course, the system linkage is just one side of that. It's really the infrastructure. And then as an industry, how do we then come together to ensure we have the very robust risk management to ensure, to prevent, fraud and then prevent money laundering. And that's really, really the most important part to make sure we have a very healthy and safe financial, ecosystem.
Certainly. And that's come to my last question specifically about CBDC or, most of the regulators are quite bullish on central bank currencies, digital currencies. India has been also pushing that. Singapore has been also working on that, and many other countries are also working on that. Do you think that the CBDC will play one of the integral part when it comes to cross-border payment going ahead?
I believe, as of September 2024, right, there are 134 currencies, the 134 countries are exploring CBDC, right? being on the wholesale basis, or some countries actually looking at the retail basis, right? In order to connect cross-border, the central banks will have. I know there's many proof of concept is happening in the central bank environment. I definitely see that it's going to be something significant. It's going to happen in the future. Whether nobody can tell whether it's going to be the next 3 years or 5 or 10 years, but definitely there's a lot of actions is actually happening, as we speak.
Okay, and I think final and the last, I think we discussed a lot about the digital, the cross-border, and everything, and that's where the future is. But what will happen to cash? I mean, in India, obviously the digital payments have ascended quite significantly, but still people use cash. Cash is still one of the dominant factor, right, of the usage. And so is, and it's a similar story in many other countries. So do you think digital will be only a supportive layer and cash will still be a dominant area, or will it be a, other way around?
I feel cash will continue to reduce. Because as we all, as a frequent traveler, right, when we go to another markets, we not necessarily today need to exchange particular foreign currencies anymore, right? Just from that personal experiences, I do see the cash will continue to reduce. And then, digital payment, will continue to evolve. And then, of course, the wallet also will be, one of the major payment method whenever we go to a different locations.
Okay. Noted your points, Winnie. I'm done with my questions. I must say thank you for sharing those relevant and realistic insights and being part of this conversation. Thank you so much for being part of ETB FSI conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Winnie. And let's stay connected. Any other things off the record you want to share?
No, that's great. That if you travel to this part of the world, and then do let me know. I'm here, and then of course, you travel here not just for fintech festival. If outside of that, that's just kind of get together. All right.
No, certainly. Even if you happen to come to India,
I will.
would love to learn more from you. But just I have already done with my interviews. But just for an understanding, do you think? Because when I came to Singapore for SFF this year, the whole world has suddenly started talking a lot about crypto and stablecoin. Why there is a rally? Is it only because of Trump, or world is actually desperately looking for an alternative?
Well, I understand there's a lot of proof of concept in the market, and now every players are looking into converting the concept into a real, kind of real case, right? All this has been talked for many years. And then, of course, with the new administration, this is just really my personal view, right? Things can move faster, right? And it just people's prediction, because, the new administration just tend to make things happen, without even notice. So I think maybe that was the key driver. People start to, again, talk about the things that is being talking for a long time.
Certainly. Thank you so much for your time, Winnie.